In Matthew 22, verse 39, Jesus teaches us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. You will see that this principle is deeply connected to self-love. So what it means is that before loving others, we need to understand and value ourselves as individuals. We are uniquely crafted in God's image. Nobody is the same as anybody else. In Genesis chapter 1:27, God tells us that we are created in God's image. So singleness is actually a season to discover and embrace our individuality, fostering a healthy sense of self. Remember, I said a healthy sense of self. We're not talking about pride here. We're not talking about selfishness where you're just constantly thinking about your own needs. But singleness is a season to discover and embrace our individuality, to know who you are and to accept it and to love it. Do you know there are people who actually don't understand how to love themselves and embrace who they are? They're constantly thinking they should have been like somebody else or they could be like the next person. But the faster you learn who you are and embrace it and love it, first of all, there are basic things like I'm just a woman, I'm short, or I'm tall, or I'm stout, or I'm thin. Those are things that we may not be able to change. All right. So of course, sometimes if let's say you're bigger, you can become small, you can become smaller, but sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes maybe you're thin and you can become bigger, but sometimes it's just not possible no matter how much you eat. So what you need to know is embrace it. If you're a tall person, embrace it. If you're a woman, embrace your womanhood. If you're a man, embrace your manhood. Just accept who you are. You are a woman. You've got hormones that fluctuate each and every month in your body. Receive it with grace. So as we continue on this topic of self-discovery, we are just saying that singleness is a season to discover and embrace our individuality without anybody disturbing us, without anyone telling us, why are you doing this today? Why are you behaving like this? But stop and focus on yourself, zoom in on yourself, and get to know who you are without any interference or any judgment from another person. Get to know what makes you happy, get to know what makes you cross, get to know what you like, get to know what you dislike, without somebody telling you, why do you like this? It's crazy. Or why do you dislike this? It's not normal. Already when you start hearing those voices, at which moment are you going to stop and love yourself? Because you're already going to be starting to do what other people believe that you should be doing. So in that season of singleness, you get to embrace your individuality and you foster a healthy sense of self. As we learn to love and care for ourselves, that means you have to exercise some self-care. Things like you get to know your skin. Okay, my skin tone is like this. When I'm going out in the sun, I have to apply some kind of a lotion on my face, or this lotion doesn't work on my skin, or my teeth are like this, I've got to do this with them. Those things, those kind of things. If you haven't taken time to understand yourself and know how to care for your body, in the morning, I want to take some time out to go and exercise so that I can release some endorphins, because these endorphins make me feel good. Go try it. Exercise in the morning or in the night, whichever time is good for you. Go exercise. Let your body produce endorphins for you, your kind of individual endorphins, and see how they make you feel good. Get to know yourself, get to know your hormones that your body are producing in you, and get to see how exactly they make you feel, how exactly you can control them, how you can stay in charge of your body by your own self. So this is what some of the things that we need to explore in a season of singleness. Can you imagine you're just with somebody else and then you learn to produce feel-good hormones, dopamine. You learn to produce dopamine because somebody gave you a hug, or because somebody kissed you, or you went too far and then you produced dopamine, and then you become addicted to a person. But have you explored how your very own body produces dopamine for you? If you do exercise, if you do something and accomplish a task, maybe it's you like writing, if you write and you complete your book, and then your body produces dopamine to reward you so that you feel good about what you've done. So learn to interact with your body, learn to interact with your hormones, learn to interact with your endocrine system, learn to interact with your digestive system. Know that if I eat sugar beans, I will have gas, or I will have a heartburn or things like that. Get to know yourself and don't wait for somebody else to come in and introduce you to you. To say, hi, oh, so you are Netsai, this is how you have to behave. Or you are Mangwe, you talk like this, you go this way. No, get to understand yourself. But it takes a season of singleness and focus on you so that you get to know how to be truly yourself, how to care for yourself, and how to love who God has made you to be. So what we are reading here, let's keep on reading. It says, as we learn to love and care for ourselves, we become better equipped to love others authentically and wholeheartedly in marriage. So if you know how to love yourself, you know you have dislikes, you know you have likes, you respect yourself, you come to that place where you just say, you know what, I respect myself, and I know what it takes to make me happy, I know what it takes to make me unhappy, I know how to make myself feel good if I'm not okay, you know. And when you have learned all these things and you are bringing another person into the picture, let's say for example in marriage or in a relationship, whatever it is, it's just when you bring another person into the picture, you then know what it takes to get to know yourself, and you can be patient with others. You are able to love them authentically. And it's very easy for you to now identify when somebody does not love themselves, when somebody has issues. It's very easy because they just bring in this negativity or this negative energy around you. And sometimes it just drains you because you know exactly how to love yourself. But this person is struggling to love themselves and they're depending on you to love them. So it becomes a very big problem because it's so draining. They look at you like you're an answer to their problems. They look at you like you're the one that they need to depend on for their own happiness. So because of that, it's very tough to then love the next person if you don't know how to love yourself, because you can become a very draining person to others. So in that season of singleness, you have to embrace yourself, embrace your experiences, and this is a precious time to deepen your relationship with God and with yourself, because remember, God is the one who gave you a purpose to live. This is the time that you will get to know, what is my purpose and what exactly am I supposed to be doing here on this earth. And while you are there alone, you try out your spiritual gifts, you try out the things that God has given you, and then you get to see, is this working, does this not work, and so on. And because of that, you start to live a life of meaning before somebody else then comes. So when somebody else comes into the picture and they try to remove you from your purpose, do you think you will want to be removed from your purpose when you've enjoyed living it all along? So already you can see a control freak when you come across one, and you can easily say, this one is a control freak, they have issues of self-love, let me just leave them to grow. And sometimes you will be able to see, okay, this person supports my growth and I also support their growth. So because of that, you're supporting each other. You're not like dependent on each other. You are two individuals that you are together, but you're not supposed to be putting each other down. So here are some benefits of singleness and steps to make the most of this season of singleness. The first thing is, singleness is a time for personal growth. So you need to use your singleness to focus on self-improvement, learning new skills and developing your interests, working on the gifts that God has given you, working on those talents and growing them and getting to see where you are using them and getting to know all about yourself and growing. So a time for singleness is really good because you can grow as a person, and when you meet the next person, you will be able to not burden them because already you have grown, you see. So you need to then make sure you grow emotionally, physically, mentally, and socially, Because there are people you see that when you meet, then there's no emotional growth, there's no self-regulation. They are still children. They are not serious about their own personal lives. They don't love themselves. That's why they put themselves in places which are dangerous. Some are taking drugs, some are doing women and sleeping around, and all these things. They show you that somebody doesn't love themselves, because that's a reckless living. We actually call it reckless living. So already when somebody is reckless, that tells you how much of self-love they've actually embraced, how much growth they have had. So sometimes you just want to give such people space so that they can grow. Some people grow slowly. We don't all grow at the same time. So we have to learn to be patient with others so that they can also have that opportunity to grow. And they can also come to that level of growth that is acceptable before God. And then the other benefit of singleness is independence. When you are single, you embrace the freedom to make decisions and choices without considering somebody else except the Lord your God. What this does is it builds the decision-making skills that you need in life. When you have learned to make rational decisions and to think the pros and cons, what is the benefit, what is the downfall of this, what is the return on investment on this, and all those things. In your single period of life, you can actually learn how to make good decisions. And sometimes when you make bad decisions, you can easily learn from them without having then to regret and having to think about everybody else before you decide. So you can actually make your own personal decisions and learn how to make a lot of decisions on your own, so that when somebody comes and you now know how to make good decisions, it will be very easy, especially when you meet someone who's also had a season of singleness and independence. It's easy to make decisions with such a person because they respect assessment, they respect coming in between or negotiating. You can't be with a person in a marriage who doesn't understand how to negotiate, because they've never been in a place to make a decision and practice negotiation skills. So they're always thinking, my position is what carries. If it doesn't happen, then nobody else is going to move. So that means you're going to be frustrated in that marriage because you are trying to reason out and come halfway, but somebody is not willing to meet you halfway because they've not learned how to negotiate. They are still very self-centered. They just think about themselves. They think about their own needs. They are self-serving. They don't know how to serve others. So it's very important to use the period of singleness to learn to be independent. Another third thing that you can benefit from a season of singleness is time for reflection. Singleness allows you a lot of time to introspect. There are days you wake up and you're just feeling sad, or you're just feeling low, like what's going on. You can take time. Nobody will ask you. You can say, today I'm having a day off, or I just want to be alone. Nobody is crowding you. You are just alone, and you can take time to introspect and think, what did I do wrong? Oh, that decision that I made that didn't work out, what went wrong? You can self-search. You can see your weaknesses, because knowing yourself doesn't mean you're just looking at the great and wonderful things about yourself. There's also weaknesses. Everybody's got weaknesses. So when you self-introspect, maybe somebody has given you feedback, take time to sit with it and then learn, okay, somebody was telling me that I'm not patient, so can I just think about this? And then you sit down with yourself and you start introspecting and you think, maybe this happened there. And in the presence of the Holy Spirit, He works with you also in those moments, because He starts to reveal things in us that we have been harboring, or things that have shown our lack of growth in the aspect of maybe patience or gentleness with others. And because of that, you start to learn and discover yourself, and you build a deeper relationship with God because of that, because God is the one revealing these weaknesses in you. And you also then grow deeper in understanding of yourself as a person. Nobody will tell you that you don't have patience, because you know the journey you've traveled, that there was a time I had no patience, but God's been working with me. And you're able to say, thank you, Lord, I know where I'm coming from and where I'm going. That if you never take time to self-introspect, then are you going to be able to assess your own growth? See, am I really growing, or am I just pretending to be perfect here? And do I feel like I'm okay where I am and I'm perfect? That's the problem. Now when you're like that and you meet another person, you're getting into marriage and you're perfect, I don't think that will work, because a perfect man is always trying to make themselves a standard for everybody else, unfortunately. So if you start to make yourself a standard for your future wife or husband, and then they're looking at you and saying, okay, so you are the perfect one here, there won't be harmony. So it's very important in the time of singleness to have time for reflection. Then another benefit of the time of singleness is building meaningful friendships. So when you are single, you know your friendships that are meaningful, and you can take time to nurture them and invest in them, and they bring you joy and support. These are the people that we carry each other. I carry you and you carry me. We all need that. No man is an island. That's why God even lives in the community of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, because no man is an island. We cannot be like that. We need others. That's why our God is a relational God, because we need friends. And when you are single, you can build and nurture good friendships that are beneficial to you, to build you a good character and to develop you and to give you growth. You can also be that friend also to your friends. Not just about you receiving, but also you should be able to be giving, to be that kind of a person to others as well. You know, I've come across people who will always think it's about them getting, and never ever giving. So at which point will you then also be considered a person who has benefited others, a person who's been friendly and carrying others in the time that they need to be carried? So this is a very important time when you're in your singleness, to assess yourself in terms of, are you able to build, not to break, but to build relationships of trust, friendships of trust, where people can actually count on you, where you can also count on others. So this is the time that we do this, and we get to have joy with our friends, and we get to have support with our friends. We have a support system. Now imagine you have just a relationship or a marriage, and then you don't have a support system that actually where you give and you receive joy from your friends. The only person that you have is your spouse. And what happens in the time that you have conflict with your spouse? Who will support you as a person who can understand you from where you're coming from? It's very important, because you'll find that there are some marriages where some individuals will try to isolate you from your friends or from your close family members that support you and bring you joy. They isolate you, and then after isolating you, they pounce on you, and they manipulate you, and they abuse you, because they now know you don't got nobody to talk to. There's nobody to support you. There's no other source of joy but them. You made them your source of joy, because you did not love yourself. You didn't take time for self-discovery. You didn't take time to make meaningful friendships, to get to know yourself, to be independent, to be an individual. You didn't take time to do all that. So please, let's just take this very seriously. The last thing that you can benefit from here in the book is focused service. So you can use your time and energy to serve others and make a positive impact. When you found out what your gifts are that God has given you, remember, our spiritual gifts are not given for our own personal benefit. They are given to serve others. So the minute you are just using your spiritual gifts for your own good, for money or salary, then that's not a spiritual gift yet. You are still going to live an empty life if you're like that. But when you start using your spiritual gifts to serve others, and you see that you are a beneficial, a member that can benefit the community, a member of the community that is useful, not just a neighbor, who just sits in their house, but you become a community member because you believe in community and changing lives and helping others, providing others with help, with food, with advice, with guidance, all those things. So it's very important then in your singleness to learn to give focused service that you are gifted in. Because I can say maybe I'm a musician and then the next person is just good with giving counsel. I can't then say, okay, I want to be like them and start giving counsel because they are doing it. You've observed them doing it very well, and then you now want to be like them. No, you can't. Stay in your lane and be focused on what you need. If God then sees it fit to give you a gift of counseling again or giving advice to others, then embrace it. He will train you so that you can go in that direction. So singleness is a time to learn to give focused service. So remember that singleness is a valuable season to develop your identity, foster meaningful connections, and grow in your faith. So embrace it fully. Then what are the effects of diving straight into a relationship without a beneficial season of singleness? Let us look at this. First of all, you lack self-awareness. So jumping into a relationship without taking time for self-reflection may result in unclear personal boundaries because you don't know yourself. You don't know what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy. So you don't even know where to put the boundary. You see, but when you've taken time to get to know yourself, you know that my boundary starts 3 meters from where I am. You know already this is the boundary. So if anybody crosses here, they are probably going to raise my red flag, or there is probably going to be a trigger. So you know exactly where your personal boundaries will be. And you will also be able to, if you don't take time for self-reflection, it may result in unclear personal boundaries, unresolved issues, because you don't even know how to resolve issues, how to communicate, because you haven't had that time to learn yourself and to know how you communicate. You don't even know what your love language is, but there you are rushing into the marriage. You don't know what you love, that when my husband or wife will do this for me, I think it will make me very happy. Maybe it's acts of service, maybe it's words of affirmation, maybe it's gifts, something, whatever your love language. Get to know yourself and know when somebody does this to me, I'm very happy. But if you don't know, then you're going to have conflicts, and then those issues will remain unresolved because you don't even know yourself. How can you solve the problem if you don't know what the problem is? So if the problem is maybe somebody's giving you acts of service when you need words of affirmation, then how are you going to resolve that? We will have unresolved issues. That was just an example I was giving. And you will also have an uncertain sense of identity. So because of that, you're just hopping from here to the next, hopping from here to the next. If you see somebody doing their own gifting, there you are, you also want to be that. If you see someone doing this, there you are, you also want to be that. So in your season of singleness, you learn to have an ID, an identity, and you get to know that, okay, Mang, where is this kind of a person? She loves to do this, and she's got this skill and that skill, and you try to focus on you. Try to focus on who you are so that you develop what God has put in you. But the minute you want to take what God has put in others and put it in you, it's not going to fit in here. It's like taking the phone battery of an iPhone and putting it in a Samsung. Your phone is not going to work. Your gadget is not going to work. So take your battery, your Samsung battery, keep it in there and let it work for you. So you don't want to be busy going up and down uncertain about who you are, about your identity, because you haven't taken time in singleness. Then the next effect of diving straight into a relationship without a beneficial season of singleness is unrealistic expectations. So if without developing a sense of wholeness on your own without somebody else in the picture, you may put unhealthy pressure on your partner to fulfill all your emotional and social needs. Because you haven't learned how to satisfy yourself without another person. Now you believe that a relationship is the one that person you are there with is the one that must come and satisfy you. And when they fail to satisfy you, you start saying, they don't know how to be with me, they don't know No, it's you. It's you. Because you are not satisfied. You can't be satisfied, Veli. You can't be satisfied. So you need to take time on your own and develop your own wholeness, so that you're bringing your 100%. That's why the book is called Bringing My 100%. We can't bring 50-50, not here, friends. It's you bring 100 when you're whole. Bring your whole 100. You are enough on your own as a person. You are enough. Bring your own 100, and then the next person brings their own 100. Two whole people coming together. Then we support each other in that relationship or in that marriage. So the next effect of not taking the time for singleness is missed personal growth. We spoke about personal growth. So if you don't do it, you are not going to have personal growth. And what is the effect of that? By not taking time for personal growth, you might miss out on developing important life skills, interests, and even confidence. There are very important life skills, like knowing just how to take care of your body, just bathing and, taking care of your armpits, or cooking, or cleaning the house, cleaning after yourself. All those basic life skills are very important for everybody. Nobody was born to clean after anybody else. Of course, we do help each other when we get married and all that, because it's just a thing about service, acts of service. But otherwise, on your own, are you able to do it? If your partner says, or your wife or your husband says, I'm going to Johannesburg or somewhere far for a week, will they come back to an orderly house, or will they come back to chaos, to the jungle of Jumanji? That is the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to personal growth. There are just some basic life skills that we need to learn. And those things are learned in the season of singleness. You must be able to know what dirt looks like, where you are living, to say this place is now dirty, it needs to be cleaned, it needs to be swept. Okay, now these clothes are dirty, they need to be put away in the laundry basket. Now it's time to wash the dishes. We can't leave the worms to grow out there in the sink, and it becomes a breeding place for maggots. No. So those are some of the things that you will learn. And if you don't take time for singleness, you're going to go into a relationship like a spoiled little brat who is marrying a maid. And then you get there, you find your wife is exhausted from work. They've come back to a dirty house because you are completely useless when it comes to basic issues of personal skills, just taking care of yourself. Then the next thing that will happen if we don't take time for singleness, this is a very sad one, and it's codependence. Without learning to be independent and self-sufficient, you may become overly reliant on your partner. And therefore, that will lead to very unhealthy dynamics in marriage. Because everything, you are so dependent on them. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Can you do this for me? What exactly can you do for yourself? So it becomes very tough because you are not able to exist without that person. Even if that person is to get sick, whom you are depending on, they get sick, they must be in the hospital for 2 months. How are you going to survive? Or let's say they even die. What is going to happen to you? Because all your life is revolving around this person and you're so dependent on them. I think I've seen situations where people actually then break down and things go from 100 to 0 because there was so much dependence on one partner in the relationship. But it shouldn't be like that, because God has given us everything that we need. We are enough. If you find yourself as an individual, then your life can still go on. Even though another person is not there, you can still go on. Yes, it is nice to have two people work together and supporting each other. Support is very good. But remember, we spoke about a support system that you can build in your singleness. That support system can help you to carry you through difficult times. But if we become overly dependent on another person, even if they're not gonna die or it's going to be very heavy for them, because they have to carry themselves as a person, and then they also have to carry you as another person. Then maybe their children, they also have to carry these minors who need to be guided on themselves. That can be a very heavy load, and it will cause unhappiness to the next person. And they'll be asking themselves, I am so unhappy since I got married to this woman, or since I got married to this man. Why am I so unhappy? And then they start saying, it's the marriage, it's a problem. But the problem is you never took the time to build your individuality and your independence during a time of singleness, where you learn to support yourself, where you learn to do things yourself, to be successful alone without the next person. And then the next person can come in and your success, both of you guys are successful. You come together and you have even a mega success together. So marriage should simply be amplifying the success that you know. Not just for you to be coming to be successful because of this person, or to try to make a living from one person. So let us try to have that time for singleness. And then the next issue that will happen if you jump into a relationship or marriage without a singleness time is unpreparedness for commitment. So skipping the singleness season can mean avoiding necessary lessons in self-love, self-care, and emotional intelligence. And it makes it harder to navigate commitment. Like I gave an example about negotiation skills. How can you learn to negotiate with your partner in a marriage when you have failed to negotiate in building decision making skills on your own? Because on your own you have decisions to make, and you've got to employ some of those skills. So you've got to know yourself, you've got to have emotional intelligence, get to know what triggers you, and let this partner get to know it triggers me. Then you set your boundaries around those areas so that everybody knows that, okay, when we come 100 meters from here, we are going too far. My partner or my husband, my wife is not going to take this easily. So, but if you haven't taken time to know yourself and you wait for marriage so that you can be told in the marriage that, you know what, you like to argue too much, or you are very selfish, or you are like this, and you're being told, it now seems like you're being judged. But had you spent time on your own in your singleness, some people who are neutral would have given you that feedback, and it would have been easier for you to work on those issues when you are alone. So when you get in the marriage, you already know, I've got a weakness to be selfish, so I need to regulate myself. I have a weakness to not be patient with others, so I need to regulate myself. So you need to remember that a healthy season of singleness allows for growth, self-discovery, and preparation for a more fulfilling and balanced partnership. This is where we're going to end today. We'll carry on the next podcast, reading the book Bringing My 100%, written by yours truly, Mangwe. God bless you.